Oh boy, let's get this show started, guys. And welcome to National Access. Tell you what a day. What a day. Patricia, do me a favor, baby. Get my speaker out there for me, please. Guys, welcome to National Access here. Adrian Francis in your company. I want to say good afternoon to all of you who have joined me today. We had another switcheroo today. Live Up TV had to do two major assignments, and so we are here in the office today doing the show. Plug right here for me, please. Come on this side. And those of you, I want to thank all of you for being a part of this show. Today we are talking about citizenship here in the Bahamas. It has come to our attention that over 400 citizenship has been given out over the last couple of weeks, and it seems as if ever since Prince Simon came into power, he's been citizenship hungry. And so we're going to be talking a lot about citizenship today. We're talking about any number of things that's going to suit your fancy today and get you to the place where you understand what's going on. Where my thing I'm made for this? Where's my jack? I think I have the power in the but guys, as we get this show together, first of all, let me say good afternoon to all of you Lance Monics. Let me say good afternoon to all of you as we prepare today. The Bahamas is in a interesting spot right now when it comes to our national development, and so our job today is to begin to deal with some things that's happened from the summer of this year. From the summer began, when the House of Assembly went on a recess. Any number of decisions were made without the House of Assembly. Critical, crucial decisions were made without the House of Assembly. And that's what we want to talk about today, because the purchasing of Grand Lucaya, that happened without the House of Assembly. And so there are some things that would have happened without the House of Assembly that we need to bring to your attention today. And there are some critical situations that would have happened over the last few months, 2 months to be exact. We'll say, Mr. J, that what leads us to believe that you really wanna put the hard questions to the government of the Bahamas. And so, as we get into the show today, guys, I want to give some persons an opportunity to, whenever I do the show in my office, I always say you have an opportunity to actually call the show, and you also have the opportunity for us to go through where you can participate in the show yourself. And so for the better part of the last hour, I really want to give some of you an opportunity to call in. Kissy, you always ask me that if I'm not on Live Up TV, it's because for some reason Live Up TV is either doing something, and that's part of the reason why. You ask me every time I'm not on Live Up TV. I'm not on Live Up TV, they're on assignment. Live Up TV is on assignment today, and so the studio cannot accommodate the show today. And so, let me say good afternoon to all of you guys as we prepare for this show today. Now, I don't understand what the process has been and why it has caused so much friction here in the country. The government of the Bahamas over the last few weeks, and in particular the Minister of the Responsibility for Immigration, has given out in excess of 400 citizenship over the last 4 weeks. I want you to like and share this show, because over the last couple of weeks over the last couple of shows, we were talking about an option, a leadership option. Now, those of you who have access to a phone, you could call into the show. We will have you on the show today so that you can actually talk to me. And I really want to talk to some of you. Charmaine Morris, I miss you. God bless you. God bless your album. You and I have to get together. We need to talk. I'm Delbinic Johnson. Good afternoon to you. Carla Hanna, good afternoon. Those of you who please share and let everybody know. Patricia, let everybody know. Please keep sharing. Let them know that we've switched from Live Up TV today to my direct page, so everybody can actually be in tune. But you have access, guys, to a phone line today, 698-2115, 2115. Pablo Smith, good afternoon to all of you today. We've been giving out citizenship to this country. You need to know who all are now Bahamians, those persons who are walking around with blue passports. We need to know why all these citizenships have been given out. And boy, it's good to be in my office. It's better to be here sometimes than be almost anywhere else. Feel like I was here all day, so you know that's a lot of work. Means you got to be in a place where you're working. So why did the government of the Bahamas give it all these citizenship to these people? So before we get into the citizenship conversation, yesterday we're having a conversation about this whole aspect of options, and some people have challenged me with what our options is and what's up. I want to say good afternoon to Cola May Collie Moore. I was able to spend some time with Cola and Bernie last night, and Cola, the Lord had Cola prophesy over my life last night. I won't forget the prophetic ministry in the life of Cola May Collie Moore. But I want to say good afternoon to Cola May Collie Moore, and I want to thank God for her. Yesterday she spoke over my life, and she spoke over the country yesterday, and I want to tell you what's happening, Kipper Morris. I want to tell you some of what Cola May said, but it has a lot to do with the voice that you hear, and the fact that God has raised up this voice to just be part of the penetrating source here in the country. My job, of course, guys, is to be submitted to you guys, so that you guys, so you all would help guide me in the direction of what's happening in the country. And so, if the Bahamas is going, but you know, I don't know how it works. Y'all gonna have to tell me today. Y'all gonna have to tell me today how it works. Our telephone numbers here: 698-2115. 698-2115. You can call the show today, and we're going to put you on the show so you can share some of your concerns. What concerns you is what we're going to be talking about today. We understand the sovereignty of God and what God wants. Someone said to me yesterday that rather than thinking about, in terms of option, rather than thinking about whether the PLP will be the next government, or whether the FNM is going to be re-voted in, or whether or not it's going to be the DNA, someone said to me yesterday, Adrian, you did a very good show on options. But they said to me that they believe that God is about to raise up a brand new party, a brand new system, and a brand new leader. And they said that the person who God is about to raise up, nobody knows. They said someone is going to emerge in leadership and take over this country. And they said, I must relax. So even though you brought up the conversation, you brought it up in good sense. We need to relax because God is about to do something brand new. The person also said that Dr. Menace had an excellent opportunity to do something awesome for this country. He was a doctor, different from law and everything else that would have happened prior to. This was a brand new type leader. And so being a brand new type leader, he was saying that this is a brand new system that God had put in place, and they expected and anticipated for Dr. Menace to be a change leader, a transformational leader. And I listened in the conversation rather than conveying what my thoughts were until the person was done. I said to them, Dr. Menace promised some things. And based on the things that he promised prior to becoming Prime Minister, I was kind of concerned that Dr. Menace missed the boat somewhat. He made a clear-cut decision that he was going to be a different type leader. He was not going to be like Ingram, Christie and Co. He said that he was going to be a change leader. He's going to be a leader that caused the people to listen. And I'm going to play some of Dr. Menace for you today. But he said he's going to be a different type leader. And he was going to listen to the people. He understood that the people were hurting. He said that the people wanted jobs. And the people wanted success. And his job was to provide that. And there were several prophecies I've come to understand over the life of Dr. Hubert Menace. There were several prophecies over the life of Hubert Menace. And the prophecies that's over his life, people are now very concerned because it was prophesied that Dr. Menace would become Prime Minister of the Bahamas. I didn't know him in this prophecy. But I found out yesterday about some of the prophecies and some of the commitments that Dr. Menace made. Part of the commitment that he made was that he was going to be submitted in leadership completely to God. He was going to hear God, and he was going to trust what God tell him for the direction of the nation. And Dr. Menace started off bad. And he started off bad. And because he started off bad, nobody was able to trust him anymore. Charles Johnson, good afternoon. I want to get some information to you so you can tell how serious a situation we're in when it comes to the leadership commitment from the Prime Minister of our country. Dr. Mills made a big mistake, and I'll tell you guys that this show today is literally going to be centered around what I believe is a cleansing process for our country. We have an option. God always have a ram in the thicket. This country has been going through, and let me explain to you what I mean, because there's a leader who's coming, and I want to prepare you guys like I've never prepared you before. Today represents the end of August, and I've shared with you how God has already touched every aspect of our leadership over the past month. And there's a spirit where most of our people are fallen victim to. It's called the spirit of cancer. Most of the people in our country who bury every weekend have cancer. And it's as if the country is under a health judgment. Health judgment, not health. Health judgment. It's as if God is waiting on one person to offer the ultimate sacrifice to heal our nation. He's waiting on a leader to fall on their sword. And when the leader falls on his sword and make that sacrifice to God, there's going to be healing in this land. Right now, there's a health curse under our nation. And what we're going to do, we're going to break this curse by offering the right sacrifices to God. Our people are going to walk in divine health. Our people are going to walk in divine prosperity. And the reason why you hear C. Allen Johnson, and yesterday C. Allen Johnson went into a spiritual mode. Yesterday, I hadn't seen him going in a very long time. And he started to talk about the sovereignty of God. Some of the things that C. Allen Johnson espoused yesterday. You don't understand how serious it was what C. Allen Johnson did. He spoke to the future of this nation in a prophetic manner. And C. Allen Johnson has never come to me and said, you know, Adrian, listen, I'm called to be this, I'm called to be that. But yesterday he spoke in a prophetic manner over this country. He shared with you what the future of this country could be like economically. He shared with you what can happen in this country, and we're going to have him join us, because what C. Allen Johnson has been sharing is pointing to where our country needs to go and grow. And so we want to give you an opportunity today. Rather than listen to me push and espouse, we want you to be able to tell us today how you feel about the state of the nation, how you feel. Good day, Veronica, Ms. Knowles. We want to give you an opportunity today. So if you are near a phone, we want to listen to you. We want everybody who is a part of National Access to hear your voice. We want to give you a chance to call. We want to give you a chance to say hello. We only see sometimes all of the thread, the thread from the show. But we want to give you an opportunity today to be involved in the show. We want to give you an opportunity to talk. 698-2115, 698-2115. We want to give you a chance to be a part of the show. What is the state of the nation from your perspective? What is the state of the nation from your perspective? How do you think God wants to move right now based on the way things are going and moving in the country? What is the state of the nation from your perspective? What is the state of the nation from your perspective? How does God move in this country so that you can be a part of something bigger than you. The governor of the Bahamas said yesterday that all of the law enforcement agencies did not even qualify for the land grants that were given out. They didn't even qualify. And so it seems as if everything the government has touched, everything that the government has done, seemed to have turned to dust. I don't know why, but it seems as if everything they touch seemed to have not gone right. And I want to give the government some props. And yesterday, I was on Wolf Road and I spoke to some friends yesterday, and let me give the government some props. They said to me, Adrian, if you were the government, would you leave Grand Bahama in the state that it's in? If you were the government, would you leave Grand Bahama in the state that it's in? I said no. Would you take a chance and put $10 million, and I went on the blocks yesterday, would you take a chance and put $10 million in Grand Bahama? Jillian Bartlett, please give us a phone number so we can call you. We want to call you so you can talk from Grand Bahama. If you were in charge right now, Adrian, would you put $10 million in Grand Bahama or $65 million to buy the hotel? Would you buy the hotel if it's you? Would you buy the hotel, Adrian, if it was you? Jillian, drop your number, please. Inbox me your number, because we're going to bring C. Allen Johnson in today from Grand Bahama as we get into the Grand Bahama conversation. If it were you, I said no, I would not do it. They said that the government loses money with Bahamas Air every year. The government loses money with water and sewage and BPL every year. Why shouldn't the government take a chance, even at a loss, to invest in a hotel? I said the services that you spoke about are what they call essential services. And when you talk about essential services versus buying a hotel from somebody that they themselves isn't prepared to invest in, what you have in essence then is the government taking a risk. Let me congratulate the government on taking a chance, because Grand Bahama is in shambles. Grand Bahama needs a shot in the arm. Let's just say today that we want to give the government until the 16th of September 2018. And as a grouping here, guys, we want to give the government a chance. As a grouping, we want to give the government an opportunity. We're going to give the government 17 days. The 16th of September, we're going to give the government 17 days. When Dr. Menace tables the purchase of the hotel inside Parliament, we're going to give the government 17 days. I see Anishka Battle just come on, guys. She is the uniform lady, and Anointed Apparels. She's Anointed Apparels, and so if you're late with having a uniform done for your children, please call Anointed Apparels. The number will appear on the screen very shortly. Please call Anointed Apparels so you can have these uniform done. I would not have purchased a hotel. I would not have purchased a hotel. But Grand Bahama needs a shot in the arm. And so the PLP and the FNM did not do well by Grand Bahama. The kind of money that the government would have invested That's fine. That's fine. I'm Jillian. You only want to talk about immigration? That's fine. Let me know what the number is so we can call you on that number now. As a matter of fact, let me see if we can set up Jillian so Jillian can be a part of the show. It's on the 19th, not the 16th? I thought it was the 16th. Because when they posted it, C. Allen Johnson, so the 16th is a Sunday then. So we'll get Jillian Bartlett in. Jillian Bartlett says she only wants to talk about She only wants to talk about immigration. We'll talk about the citizenship situation with Jillian, and then we'll get we have to put these persons in place because. Good afternoon. Hello? Now, we're having some audio difficulty. Jillian, can you hear me? We're trying to hook up Jillian Bartlett or the Grand Bahama. Can you hear me, Miss Bartlett? Until we get Jillian sorted out. So, the government of the Bahamas made a decision to invest in Grand Bahama. And investing in Grand Bahama, The hotel was not in essential service. Okay, so it is the 19 day. So what we're giving them, Sea Island is almost 20 days to report to us on Grand Bahama. 20 days to report us. We're going to give the government of the Bahamas the benefit of the doubt. We're not going to be critical. We're not going to try to destroy the confidence. We can hear you, Jillian. We're not going to destroy the confidence of the government. We're going to give them an opportunity. Now, there are a couple of things that we're going to give the government an opportunity on. We're going to give them a chance to report to us the full story on Oban, because we do it Grand Bahama first. And then we can get the citizenships. All these citizenship was being given out by Brent Simonet. He given out a bunch of citizenship. Since Mr. Simonet came into office, he's given out over 400 citizenship. Since Brent Simonet came to office, he's given out over 400 citizenship. That almost sounds ridiculous. He's given out over 400 citizenship since he's come into office. 400. That's why I run out yesterday. Y'all thought I was joking when I was talking about them. When I was talking about people coming up here, talking about they come to get bags, school bags, and Jamaicans and Asian coming to get school bags. No. 400 citizenship they gave out. So until we get Jillian hooked up, let's go to see Alan Johnson, so that we can begin get this conversation started. We can get these conversations started. See, Alan Johnson and I finished off on something yesterday, but we want Jillian, we want different voices out of Grand Bahama to be a part of all that we're saying. And guys, we want to give you an opportunity also to call into the show today. Today, we want to give all of you who listen and follow the show, who only make comments on the show, we want to give you an opportunity today to call in and become a part of the show. We will put you on the show, let your voice be heard, so that I gotta make sure what's going on here, my audio. See, Alan Johnson, can you hear me? Hello? I gotta get this audio set up with the speaker. Who listen and follow the show, who only make comments on the show. We want to give one second, see Alan. Today to call in. We'll put you on the show. Yeah, hold 1 second. I do have a landline. I call you from a landline. Hold 1 second. Inbox a landline number. See Alan, just inbox a landline number. See Alan. So guys, we experiment with a couple of things right now. So we have two situations where you can call in through the system, or you can actually or what you can actually do is you can call in from the phone lines. See if we can get CL. Okay. So $30 million into $30 million while the House of Assembly was closed is what was actually given to us. $30 million. Okay, Tialing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, hold 1 second. Okay, now we said 19 days, give them 19 or 20 days, so that we wouldn't seem overly critical about the state of Grand Bahama and about the promises they made to Grand Bahamians. Is that enough time?
I think it's more than enough time, because, see, I remember one time you did a show and you were speaking about where is the money coming from.
Yes.
And you remember the Oban deal? I tell you, I pay attention to numbers.
Yes.
If you go back to the budget, you would see that when the budget was first published, I asked the same question. What is $25 million is going to do for the Alokaya property? In the budget was $25 million. A lot of people overlook that, and so for me, I understand where the $10 million is coming from. I know that it's going to be, my question would be more is, are they transferring only $10 million to the special purpose vehicle, or are they transferring the whole $25 million into the special purpose vehicle? Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, you had Mr. Paul Wynn, who was almost implying that they were asking too much for the hotel. So even though we may have saw this whole episode that came down in August, you would have to assume that what we're experiencing now, they somewhat knew would happen since June.
So we kind of knew that based on the tug of war that was actually taking place between Hutchinson and Paul Wynn, that this would have been the results.
Yes. And so what Paul Wynn was basically doing was depositing into the public domain. The whole concept is if you can't find the funding beyond the $25 million, I'll lend it to you. And so basically what you saw was, it's called control, opposition, and manufactured consent. It's a concept in diplomacy. And so what they were doing was manufacturing consent, essentially for what they knew would eventually happen. And so if Paul Wynn already had in his mind that he was only going to pay $40 million for it, it'll be highly coincidental that the government have exactly the difference between what he's willing to pay and what Hutchison is acting.
So we would be right then in the based on the show that we did last week, when we said that for the most part, when Paul Wynn made the comment that he would lend the government the money.
Yes.
When he said he would lend the government the money, could we be thinking that at the end of the day, based on sole purchasing, that Paul Wynn is the first man in?
Most likely he would be, because he's been at the table for almost 2 years or longer.
That's right.
You know, so I hear about people say other people coming, but I don't see how you can have a commitment deal, like almost you say you have an engagement, and then claim that you were actually courting other people to whom you could marry. So if he was the exclusivity at the table for the last 2 years, you would naturally assume, right? Remember, he was at the table right till the announcement came that he was pulling out, and the government said they were going to buy it.
Yes.
And so I mean, as far as we're concerned, he's the only person we know that the hotel has been engaged to for the last 2 years.
So you know what I find intriguing? Why wouldn't the government then just come out honestly and say that Paul Wynn would be the first man and the person who they're speaking to would be Paul Wynn? To not say that, wouldn't it then be almost deceiving the country, or going through almost like a backdoor situation?
See, what happens is, remember, this is the problem we have, right? Leadership doesn't play politics, okay? But politics doesn't understand leadership. Leadership would come to you and say to you, this is what we have. But the problem is that if you already have taken a lot of beating throughout for the decisions you have made, so what you want to do is to massage a direction. They would say control, opposition, manufactured consent. So you wanted people to oppose you a particular way in the purchase of the hotel. You wanted to basically manufacture consent by what we're going to do. If you had came out and said, by the way, the $25 million, we said this in June during the budget debate, the $25 million we're putting there, wait till y'all see. In 2 months, Paul Wynn is going to withdraw from this property, and we're going to give him the $25 million for him to purchase it. They would have taken a beating from the opposition and other people that they're doing. So essentially, they basically orchestrated a pathway for which they could proceed with the one of less resistance. And so the question then becomes is for us to see what exactly is it that they will announce on the 19th is this so-called strategy, because simply purchasing the hotel is not suffice, because we can look at it and see that with only 100 out of the 1,000 rooms, only 168 off.
So see, if they say to us that the goal was to purchase the hotel, get it out of the hands of Hutchinson and Paul, get the hotel out of the hands of Hutchinson and Paul, and they would say that we've already done that. We become a little bit more aggressive in terms of sale. We become more aggressive in terms of pushing it. Does that put us in a better state for Grand Bahama? Is that easier for the Bahamian people to digest, knowing that it's now in the government's hand for the government to sell?
No, but see, again, because here's what happens, though. You were talking about time constraint. Apparently, it was no plan then. The question now is to see what plan we have now. Because what happens is that when you start talking about committing government money, generally speaking, you almost have to have what you're going to do with it, what you're going to have a strategy with it. And so I put to you that somehow, right up until June, or whenever they finalized this figure in the budget, they did not have a strategy at that time.
Yes.
As exactly how they're going to go about it. And so they basically rough figured that we're going to need about $25 million to basically do this transfer or consummate whatever. But there was no real cemented strategy in place. And so essentially you don't come and say we put this here because we may be taking a Hail Mary or doing whatever sooner or later. And so essentially they did what is politically necessary to proceed. The question now we have to ask is that what type of vested interest that we will get for the discount that we're getting in it? What type of additional taxes and concessions we have to give to have Paul Wynn or whoever buys his property over the hump of this $100 million need to get the hotel open and up and running. If we take into the fact that the Hutchinson Whampoa got $85 million from the insurance, remember the insurance don't give you 100% of the losses, we can almost immediately understand that at least $100 million or so of damages was done to that property. Now, since that time, you have a deterioration of the property, so you can add a few $1 million more to it. But in the meantime, you have the $25 million, you have some things for airlifts and other things that has to happen. And so this is why.
So let's break down. Let's break down for a second for the Bahamian people, because we want to be ahead of the game when it comes to this situation with the hotel, and we want to be ahead of the government when it comes to what has to happen going forward. And let's be ahead for 1 minute. If we decide to believe that the government has bought the hotel, first thing is, where's my pen? First thing would be, if the government was to open the hotel, let's give the Bahamian people an understanding of how huge a magnitude this is. And Patricia, come for me, please. Let's give the government an idea of how serious the situation is. If we decide then to say the government is, can you get my pen or the thing, please? And the reason why the speaker isn't working because the plug is not in. But anyhow, 150,000. You would think C. Allen Johnson would be the amount to get the hotel back on the market?
Yeah, I would say comparably, when you look at the whole stake of bringing the whole 420 acres, you could very easily put $150 million easily.
Okay, so let's just talk about renovation first. Renovation would be let's say 150,000, 150 million ballpark.
Easily $150 million, yes.
Okay, so renovation 150 million. Does that include airlift? Money for airlift?
You kind of broke up again. Say it again?
Would that include money for airlift?
No. That's just strictly getting the hotel ready. You now have to have a marketing strategy to actually get people what is called heads in beds when this is open. But before you while you're doing the renovations on the other two hotels, this is a tripod hotel. You have one hotel that's already open that basically it's like you said, antiquated. It can take you back to the 80s. Like if you don't have some disco guests, they'll enjoy the hotel. So what happens is that when you look, you can keep that hotel with, I think, 168 rooms open, basically sustaining the part-time jobs that you have there now. Because there's going to be no increase. If the hotel is at capacity right now, so there'll be no increase in revenue. It will not change the status quo of maintaining that part of the hotel open. The question is what type of subsidies we'd have to carry. But at the meantime, what you need is a comprehensive Grand Bahama strategy, a destination strategy, before you begin pumping $150 million into the renovations.
Now, the government of Bahamas said that they're not. Now, we want to make this clear to the Bahamian people so they would know. The governor of Bahamas, the new chairman of the hotel corporation, Michael Scott, said the government of Bahamas is not committing $1 in renovation. Michael Scott.
You said they're not committing.
Not $1 in renovation. In other words, it's not going to be their job to renovate this. In other words, he's thinking flip.
No, he's thinking transfer, because it's not flip. Flip is when you flip to make it. Generally, with the intent of flip.
You may be right, because flip is when you intended to make something from it.
Right.
So it would be then transfer. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Right. And so essentially, but it doesn't matter who goes, right? We are on the limb for this. Here's why. There's no investors going to come into this marketplace with the intent of losing money. No one is. And so somehow it's going to take a few months or even, the question is how long, to develop a strategy to get heads in bed, get the marketing out, to get all of these various aspects out.
So can we put a number then on marketing and airlift? I put $5 million.
I would put for the build out of this and maintaining it, depending on how the strategy, whether you localize or what you say sustain once you, let's say, if I was in charge of marketing and I have a brand, I would actually begin to propagate that brand, like how you did Bahama, the brand coming with a date.
Yes.
Selling what it is. That can be localized as far as maintaining that brand presence across the internet. But very easily,
I like that brand presence. Go ahead.
Right. If you put, say, 18 months for the hotel to opening, you could literally put $1 million a month in what is called not only in branding, but it was called incentivizing individuals to come.
But if you're talking $1 million a month that's 18 million.
Yes, I'm saying this is for what is called marketing, but at the same time,
But would that price include airlift?
No, but see, but this again, the airlift itself is another conversation that has to have separately. If you have a destination, if you build it, they will come. The problem is they're not going to come because of the cost. So now you must have a discussion concerning port fees, which it takes into effect airlift or individuals coming by boat. Because remember, Grand Bahama has shuttles like from Florida that can bring people in by the hundreds, if not the thousands, that can spend the night, can spend whatever. So the question then becomes and so this is what I say, incentivizing it so that people will pre-book and people will do whatever it is that you need. Because, so when you have people pre-book, you already have what is called a set cost of what you need to recoup your investment. So yes, you could incorporate this marketing aspect into the Bahamas, localize it so that you could create some jobs on the ground and other places in the Bahamas as opposed to pay some agency to $20 million.
Now this is considered, but your scenario is based on the fact then though that the government itself is investing in gutting out the hotel and putting it back to form.
No, see, what happens is because
that's based on transfer.
No, but this is where negotiation comes in, because no one is going to rightfully come and spend the money, the $150 million, because you're now talking about $65 million and easily dropping another $150 million. We can just cap it off at $250 million.
Because you're just thinking basic strategy right now. You're just thinking strategy.
Right, so that's why you need to have a strategy, and they're going to have a strategy as to when they open in 18 months, because you're talking, remember now, no airline, no travel agency will subject themselves to putting themselves into a hotel unless they can get a clean bill of health on mold and mildews, whatever, because it creates a liability for the individuals that book those tours. And so now you're talking about gutting totally two complete hotels. I mean, stripping it down, getting rid of the furniture, getting rid of the carpet, getting rid of anything for which mold and mildew might live. Now, I don't even know if the walls are not cement. You're now talking about getting rid of all the drywall. So if the walls inside is not antibacterial type persistent, you're now talking about gutting everything except for the four walls. You're talking about, and so because mold and mildew is growing, and then you can't cover that up. You have to extricate that from the building, because it will grow back behind the walls that you put there. And so in essence, you may just be keeping the four walls of the hotel. And so that takes time to clean, gut, and rebuild that entire hotel. And so remember, there's a carrying fee that if you borrowed $150 million to do this, there's still a carrying fee of the $65 million, which is called interest and maintenance, whatever, and for the $150 million. And so then there's the actual preparation of marketing for this whole project to come to life beyond the current.
So it's the numbers you say are scaring me now, because now you're going up to $250 million. The government's already put down $10 million in this process. The government's already put down. I got to ask you a hard question based on the fact that the government's already committed to this. Are we in trouble?
No, let me tell you. Let me give you. I want you.
I don't think about the question, because I really want to. Are we in trouble? Because we have put down $10 million. We've already committed to 65.
No, we see. Even if you look at the $65 million, when you look at the golf course, remember now, I'm giving you the figures of $250 million because you have a golf course that hasn't been maintained for years. So you have to bring those one or two, whatever amount of golf course back into use. That's part of the amenities.
So they're back in play also.
Right, that's part of the amenities. And so then what happens for us, though, if you look at the fact that this is a little over 400 acres, which is like $160,000 an acre, you could argue it's a good buy based on where it's located, beachfront property, access. And so as is for the $65 million, it is not necessarily a bad deal. Okay? The question then becomes, is not the 65 is spending, it is, are we buying the whole? Originally said we're not. And are we buying to sell? So if we then said we have to demolish the hotel, then we're already back to diminishing another 10, 20, $30 million on the property. So we spent $65 million and we could get, say, the 40 back.
Would you say then that the government's greatest challenge in the initial purchase would be the lack of strategy?
Yes, and that's why it's important. Because as it stands right now, I can argue on the government behalf, because I use an expression, never argue against something you can't argue for, okay? Because that means that you don't comprehend the situation.
Yes.
I can argue that as it stands today, the government's $65 million is not a bad strategy if you have a plan going forward, whether it be throwing $200 million behind, an additional $190 million behind the hotel, or you said we have the $65 million worth of properties, what could we do to recover our $65 million? That's not a bad strategy. So as it stands today, until we come back on the 19th, you can argue, spending the additional $190 million, you can argue the government as it stands right now is very close to net zero.
Okay, so if the government someone says to me yesterday, and I want you to comment on this. Someone said to me yesterday, why not buy the hotel and take the hotel from the same perspective that you would an essential service, a la Bahamas Air, BPL, where the government does not make the kind of money in any event. Let's take that same approach the person is saying. I said no. There's a big gap between an essential service and a private purchase in order to create a couple of jobs. What's the difference in this becoming an essential service or demand that the government is actually going toward?
I don't understand what you mean, essential service. The hotel can't, because if you want to look at the hotel room, let's use an example, right? You could have built on Grand Bahama, stimulating the construction industry, you could have built 1,300 rooms on Grand Bahama by lending $100,000 per person to build a two-bedroom, whatever, on their property, right? So you could have built, if you were lacking rooms, or you want to bring whatever, you could have built 1,300 brand new rooms. And the question then would be, like, what would that have done for the economy, stimulating the construction industry? Trying to build 1,300 rooms in 18 months, which is technically, if you even put in 2 bedrooms each location, you're talking about 650 new houses or apartments or whatever. So, you know, there's some other arguments we could make concerning the thinking behind what could have happened involving this. So for them to say an essential service, I don't know how you would define it, because remember, the problem right now as we stand today may not be the 65 million. The question is, if the government was to keep it, and the government then have to find a means of pumping 190 million to restore it, how do we have a return on our money? Okay.
The government took a loan, or took a gift from the Chinese. The gift that they took from the Chinese was the National Stadium. The government have staff at the National Stadium on a daily basis. They have to cut the grass, they have to do maintenance, but every day there's nothing happening at the stadium. There's no work happening in the pools every day on a daily basis. Nothing happening in Kendall Isaac's gym every day. There's nothing happening in that monstrosity. Nevertheless, we pay to maintain it. Are we going into the same situation with the hotel? We own it. That's ours. The stadium is ours, but nothing is happening in the stadium. We're building a brand new baseball park right now in the same complex, and we've yet to go out. If you build it, they will come. No. If you go and tell them that you have it, they will come. The question is, what are we putting in place with Grand Lucaya to ensure that we don't have another empty stadium on our hands?
Oh, see, but see, now you're asking a question, because what happens now is that when you look at the fact that let's say the Chinese is gonna carry the mortgage on this billing for the other $55 million.
Yes.
Right? And so then you have to do a calculation that very easily the mortgage payment on that alone is $300,000 a month at 5% interest. Okay, over a 30-year period of time. Okay.
Yes.
Let's just assume that we doing a regular house, or even if you even short it, let's say they don't even.
Your share is brilliant because what we're trying to do is the governor of the Bahamas is going to come into the House of Assembly in September, and I'm trying to prepare you guys for what the newspaper will say before the government shows up in September. I'm trying to give you an idea, a bird's eye view, on how you can actually tell whether your government is fruitful. In the context, I'm giving you a breakdown of what they have to tell you. Michael Scott said Dr. Menace couldn't muster enough energy to electrify a mosquito. Michael Scott is now the chairman of the hotel corporation. He is now in charge of the SPP people, whatever the hell the plan is, what they got. He is now the chairman of that plant. And so now all of a sudden, Michael Scott, who would have put Dr. Menace under the gun, he is now under the gun because he's making plenty noise, making news now. Oh, good. Michael Scott making news. He get a job before he got a job. And so now Michael Scott got a job. And so the job is to sell the Bahamian people and justify why we bought a hotel. And when Michael Scott ain't coming to Parliament, when Dr. Menace comes to Parliament, this can be like Obad, Tugi and Bobo. This can be like them same situation. And the question is, I'm trying to prepare you before he shows up with the documents, making sure that the numbers are right.
Right, but
go ahead.
Let me give you, a lot of people ask, like, where I get the $1 million a month. Here's where the $1 million a month comes in, right? $55 million. I'm using what's out on the table. $55 million over 15 years at 5% interest.
Yes.
Payments on that will be around $450,000 a month. Okay, that's without insurance or anything. So throw in insurance or whatever, and you could very be at $500,000 a month just for the mortgage payment. The carrying cost of the hotel for the 168 rooms right now, with 400 workers, if the government pays them the government wage of $250 a week, would be $5 million a year, which is another $450,000. So you could very easily hit $450,000 for the salaries for the 1/3 that's open, at $450,000 for the mortgage. That's $900,000. Throw in $100,000 for insurance and whatever else that has to be there. So that's the $1 million a month carrying costs of while you develop the other two part, paying the mortgage. That doesn't add any of the repair costs. I'm simply saying, as it stands today, it costs $1 million a month to carry this hotel without doing anything, without doing any repairs right now. Okay?
Yes, Coleman.
Okay? So the question then becomes, now that while the hotel, whether we do any repairs, you now have committed to $100 a month, $1 million a month payment on this loan and carrying the workers.
Jesus.
Now we must have a conversation. What is the strategy to generate this $1 million a month using the 168 rooms? Because remember, when I say that now, you have to add the operating cost. I didn't do that. The operating cost of carrying that hotel for these 400 people to remain employed. And these are the variations that you have to come up with. And so if you look at what it costs to carry that hotel, it may be another $1 million a month. The question then becomes, is that the hotel room, where you say is 168 rooms, and then you just times that by the 30 days in the month, and see if you come up with $2 million.
Wow. See, Alan, something just hit me just now, right? Because as a Bible scholar, I have to always test things with the Bible, and I have to always check to find out whether or not, because everything I find in nature and in life, I can find in Scripture. Jesus was the product of God. Is it more costly to market something after it's already built, or before it's built? What is easier? Do you pre-market or post-market? Let me tell you why I use the Bible. Because Jesus was the product of God. You remember how long God was advertising Jesus before he reached?
No, because it is hard. See, what happens is...
I want you to think about that. There were all kinds of bad. Isaiah talked about Jesus before he got here. So Jesus was so properly advertised before he came that when he showed up, he had to tell them, "This, I am the person Isaiah was talking about." He was being pre-advertised before he showed up. Now we have a monstrosity. We have a monstrosity in Grand Lucaya that's already built. Now we're doing post-marketing. Tell us now how much more expensive it is with post-marketing versus pre-marketing.
This is what happens. I can tell you though, I think using the brand of Alokaya without adding some extreme value is going to be very hard to sell because most people know what it is. And so this is why I'm saying is that there has to be a new destination brand or something that has to be developed because you have to give some people something to anticipate. You know how Bahama, I remember before the Baja debacle, how Bahama was doing well and selling the rooms and
yes,
everything else of that sort. But once the dam get once you're trying to sell a damaged product, it becomes extremely hard because skepticism sits in. And so even when you have to understand that because of other experiences of Grand Bahama and the failure of this hotel continuously for over 10 years, there's going to be a level of skepticism in exactly getting this hotel off the ground. This is where I came up with the $20 million for the marketing aspect. So you have to almost incentivize the marketing aspect for the pre-booking and whatever else that is necessary for those 18 to 20 months of getting the hotel to be sold, where you give incentives for experiences, and you have to give somebody to say, look, because what you're trying to do is like how a store open up, is to get people into it so they can then become your evangelists to say, it ain't what y'all think it is, and they can authenticate it. So, because if you start getting, after you open in 20 months, you incentivize those 1,000 rooms, and you, after the 20 months they open, and you start now have 1,000 rooms, 1,000 room nights a night being sold, and people experience it. Even if you take it for the 52 weeks, you have 52, you would have 5,000 family experiences if somebody stayed for the whole week. But let's put it at 5,000 people per day. What you now have is these evangelists who is now going to document and carry the message that this was a super experience. But if you just simply put the hotel there as rooms and you spend this $200 million, whatever, for the people to come and nothing for them to evangelize, like you use the church analogy, there will be no Christians. There will be no Alokayans, whatever coming out of that hotel.
My Lord Jesus.
Okay? And so essentially, this is why this whole strategy has to see what is it, because it cannot just be repairing the hotel. It has to be...
So what have you heard then? What have you heard then from that gives you any kind of a relaxation from the government of the Bahamas based on the fact that the $10 million, I mean, what you're telling us now, which makes so much logistical sense, what you're telling us now then, based on what the government has already done, that they put the cart before the horse, are they about to sell us dreams? Did they break down all of this to understand that the golf course have to be in place? Did they break down all of this to understand that there ought to be, we have to incentivize in order to get this thing back up and running? Did they think about the marketing, the LF at $20 million? Did they start to think about the extra $150 million? Are they understanding that whoever comes into this situation have to be greatly incentivized by the concessions have to be given to them greatly by the Bahamas government? Did they start to think about the operating costs? Did they start to understand that there ought to be a new destination branding? Did they start to think whether or not there ought to be pre plus post marketing? Are they considering whether or not the brand name has to be changed? Did they start to think about all of this stuff, Seattle Johnson? Because now they have to come to us, now that we have all this information that we're putting out there to the Bahamian people. Now that all this information out there, you put $10 million down, did they start to think that with all of what they have to put up together now, how long will this take? Did you give the people a schedule, agenda, and deadline? And if not, how in the world are Bahamians going to buy into September? Because when you get notice of assembly and you begin to talk, we already got all the information ahead of you. Now talk, Seattle.
But this is why what is being said in the House of Assembly doesn't matter, because the government can't stand there for a few days and tell you what is going to happen. And I don't want what's going to happen. For me personally, I want to touch a tangible plan. Okay? Because you can't get up and talk for 1 hour that's allotted to each person to speak.
Yes.
And tell me how you're going to invest $200 million and have a return of it on that $200 million and at the same time lay out your strategy. Even in a pitch, you couldn't go into a bank and use 1 hour for $250 million. You could, so if you were even raising $1 million from 250 people, which is very possible, you know, it's extremely possible. But what's important is that before I give you my $1 million to buy into the $250 million vision that you have, I need to know what will I be getting for my million and how it will be secured and returned. So that's what the government has to do. Treat us like an investor. Present to us this strategy plan, this synopsis or whatever you want to call it or whatever. At minimum say, here's the synopsis, which is not a complete plan, but it's an enough plan for you to send for the other book. It's enough plan for you. A synopsis is good enough for me as an investor that I will call my banker and ask him, do I have room in my account for this, in my portfolio to spend this million? Mm-hmm. But if you don't motivate me to say, this is good enough so I can see the future, it's selling a vision. Sell me enough vision in it so I can be an early adopter into this vision to say I'm going to come in for the $1 million. So the question then becomes, what is government going to bring to the House of Assembly in a booklet, not to the speech? Because it's very good to give us platitudes in verbal, I call it linguistic gymnastics. What we need the government to do is to release for us, at minimum, a synopsis of the strategy they have for the hotel and for Grand Bahama. Because remember, this after you land in Rome, nobody comes to any destination anywhere in the world to experience the room. No one does that. They come for the experience. Okay, what will be the Grand Bahamian experience that will cost me to spend $300, $400, $500 for this room for which I will only sleep in? Okay, my whole goal of coming to the room, the whole goal of a destination is only for you to sleep in the room, for you to have the experience. What is it then that you have planned to make this $500 room? Because if I just come in for the room, I could stay home and save $500.
So, the other question I would have then to you would be, what role would Hutchinson and Paul want to play? Because they're not going to give the whole thing. Are they going to reserve airlift for themselves?
No, Hutchinson is never the airlift. Hutchinson is in the tax business.
So, who has the airlift? The Paul will have the airlift. Who has the airlift?
No, they make the money from the taxes. So that's where
who has the airlift coming in the Grand Bahama?
Right now, Bahamas Air, American. See, the problem is not for the airlines coming in, you know. If we have a destination and we could fill a plane, they will run here. The problem they have is that the price competitiveness is what is killing us because of the taxes they attach to the cost of the tickets. Mm-hmm. So, and that is where the government, you remember now, you and I were just talking about the hotel. The government, in addition to the hotel or integrated into that, have to bring us an airlift or a ship docking strategy to get people in those rooms. Then another part of that is and that is in part of the $250 million. The government on the other part of that must also bring us an experience strategy, because I only give you the repair of the hotel. I haven't given you what it costs to build the experience, to build the restaurants and the entertainment and all of these things, because again, we are not going to be selling 1,000 rooms. We have to sell a Grand Bahamian experience.
So then, Alden, if we are transferring this hotel, would it then be the government's responsibility to come up with the brand with the experience strategy? Would it be the government's job then to just grab this thing as is, put it in the hands of somebody else, say for 60 million, we lose 5 million on it. You come in, got out, do the work, find your clients, get your heads in beds. That has nothing to do with us. We'll give you some concessions. We want to back the hell out of the way. All we want is jobs for people in Grand Bahama. Would that be what the government is thinking in this whole experience?
No, but that's what the government is thinking. But no matter what, once we have married this woman, right? Even if we want to hand her off to someone else, we're still in it, because Hutchinson Whampoa and the rest of them there has to be some means of forcing them to be able to participate in this vision vision of this new investor. If Hutchison didn't care enough about even selling the hotel, what do you think Hutchison going to voluntarily...
Somebody talked about landing fees.
No, that's a landing fees right there.
Because that's the landing fees, you saying that's Hutchison on board?
Yes.
That's the taxes?
Yes. And so the question...
So what would have been Paul Wynn's issue? Because if you say, if the government was giving this to Paul Wynn, if Hutchison and Paul was giving this to Paul Wynn at 65 million, and Paul Wynn said, okay, I'll take 65 million. His main thing was the cost of doing business in Grand Bahama is too high. And so he would have then had to meet with the port. He had to meet with Port Authority. I don't know why, but he had to meet with Port Authority and the government of the Bahamas to come up with concessions that will actually drive the cost down, so that he could cause the hotel situation to work.
Yes, that's it. He's dealing with the Port Authority. He's dealing with Hutchison Whampoa and the government.
And the government.
Yes.
And so he's saying that the cost of doing business between that triangle was too high.
Yes, that's exactly what he's saying. That he could not get an agreement that is satisfactory for him to even pay the $65 million between the three of them. Now, Hutchison Whampoa and the Port Authority is players in the harbor and in the airport. So they have the influence on there, because that's where the taxes, they were the ones who set the rates at the harbor and at the airport. And so even for that, and then there's other incentivizing where he needs cooperation for the marketing of the hotel from government. That's money from tourism. He needs concessions on the taxes. He needs concessions on the supplies and stuff that I guess he would bring in to build the hotel. And so when he is factoring all of those different variables, and he did not get any room from Hutchison Whampoa or from the Grand Bahama Port Authority, I would assume the government was willing to give him everything, because when we hear it about if what was in the marketplace is true, that he was asking for 450 foreign work permits to be included as part of his deal before this administration came in.
Wow.
So so the question then becomes, okay, what is the impact on the economy? And so he was asking that the government guarantee. This is what they said. Okay, he said that under the previous administration, the deal they had on the table, where they were going to guarantee, regardless of how this hotel is run, that I think he had a 7% profit.
Hold on, because I'm Gorman. I put it to you because I want to take you in a direction, Gorman, based on what you're saying now. Because C. Alan Johnson's been advocating something now for the past God knows how long when it comes to the digital Grand Bahama. And I want to challenge C. Alan Johnson with all that we would have gone through today, because this is very frightening, people. All that I would have written today becomes a strategic plan, a strategic managing plan for the sale of Grand Lucaya and all the properties that are there. So what we are looking at right now, Gorman Bannister, is a tourism model for the restoration of Grand Bahama. That doesn't include cruise ships or whatever else have you. But this represents, for 10 seconds, a new design for the tourism model of Grand Bahama. Now, what C. Alan Johnson has done, there are 4 aspects of Grand Bahama that we have to consider. Because now what we're basically doing is we are strategically giving you a brand new Grand Bahama, a vision for Grand Bahama.
Yes, you are.
If we put all of this in place and just put tourism aside for 1 second, and we start to talk about a digital Grand Bahama, a pharmaceutical Grand Bahama, a sports Grand Bahama, if you start to think about Grand Bahama in this capacity, C. Alan Johnson, then what you basically you've completely shifted. You can take a pharmaceutical Grand Bahama, a medical Grand Bahama, and then the hotel begin to make sense, because at the end of the day, the hotel has value where all the other components are working.
Right, but you're correct. This is why I'm saying to you that Grand Bahama has to become a destination. What you have is you can have sports tourism, right, which again requires another grouping investment maybe for environment to create sports conducive. You can have medical tourism, which requires now us to put into the strategy a hospital for which should already been on this island. Let me take a side by here. Reason why the Grand Bahama Development Company can never really develop Grand Bahama. No one is going to come to Grand Bahama and invest hundreds of millions of dollars and have no hospital for them to be taken care
Jesus,
of.
man.
They're not going to come to Grand Bahama and not have any fire services. Okay, we literally got buckets of water to throw on fires in case it happened. We have no fire services. We have no medical services. We don't have any of the things that make it attractive for high net worth people or even second home owners to come to Grand Bahama. And all of these should have been responsibility, considering the $150 million a year we have given to the Grand Bahama Port Authority and Huntersville and Power for the last 25 years.
This is absurd.
Right.
How could you be talking about a fire station in the second city that has produced billions of dollars?
Right. Do you know the investors here? And like, for instance, literally speaking, the investors coming here have to build in their own fire suppression system because we don't have the responses to even put out literally house fires, not less industrial or real commercial fires on Grand Bahama.
My God.
And so the question, what I'm saying to you is that when you start talking about a Grand Bahama, you're now going back to the F&M platform. Remember
this is
what
so sad.
They said ecotourism in East Grand Bahama, digital in Central, and cultural and heritage tourism in the West. These items. And so I put, again, on the table that the hotel can be a strategy, but there now must be, as you put it, a Grand Bahama strategy.
Yes, man.
Opening the hotel alone is not going to be the panacea to solve our problems.
So where are your MPs in the middle of this kind of discussion where Aram Lewis, who used to be sports, Pakeisha Parker, who used to be media, Michael Pintard, who represents, I think, the better part of agriculture plus the arts. You have Frederick McAlpine, who would represent religious tourism. You have who else is there? Who am I missing?
You have Peter Tanquist. Let me tell you how.
And he represents economics on their left.
But that's what I'm saying to you. Here's what you have in Grand Bahama. You have Michael Pintard, who understands culture as well as agriculture, which covers the East Grand Bahama and West Grand Bahama, because he understands the whole ecosystem. You have Pakeisha Parker that's supposed to be understanding media, the strategist to sell this to the world. You have Aram Lewis that understands infrastructure build out as well as sports tourism because of his expertise. You have Peter Turnquist, who's supposed to be our Minister of Finance, so he's supposed to have the mastery of the financial things of putting all of this together. So then when you go to Michael Pine has what is called a local representation of the people, the go-between for explaining and integrating with the people as to selling the people onto this vision. So when you actually begin to extrapolate from the five MPs, they're sufficient basically for a team of strategists.
I mean, they represent the government by themselves.
For Grand Bahama. Now remember, when you start talking about bringing this vision of a Grand Bahama that's promised, now when you start talking about digital tourism coming to Grand Bahama, what I call digital paradise, live, work, play in the Bahamas, I'm talking about having access to almost 1 million digital nomads who will travel the world, who would love to live, work, and play in the Bahamas. So what happens then is you're literally talking thousands of jobs being created on the island of Grand Bahama, not only in the build-out of this vision, but also in the maintenance and doing it after it's done. So at the same time, while you're building this hotel, you remember, we'll then need, if you build out this master Grand Bahama vision that I've been talking about for 15 years, you now have the need for thousands of more rooms or homes. You now have stimulated a construction industry very easily into the $1 billion range.
Wow. Guys, you're talking vision, a vision for Grand Bahama today. See Alan Johnson, Adrian Francis in your company. We're trying to get you to understand the value of a Grand Bahama rather than a Grand Lucaya. When you get a bigger picture, when you get a better understanding of what God wants, and everything is in place. Everything is in place for a brand new Grand Bahama. Everything is in place right now. And you're talking about what's going on with Bahama Rock and the rest of it. See, Alan, you talk about the resources, the seed fund. What we're talking about right now, it's happening right now in Grand Bahama, where it's being raped by the shipport, where it's being raped by Bahama Rock, where it's being raped by persons going in and out of Grand Bahama and taking out. Could it be? See, Alan Johnson, if this model works, it becomes a model for the rest of the Bahamas?
No, it becomes a model for the rest of the Caribbean and the world.
Oh!
Remember, the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement is already a model that has been copied in Cayman Islands and other places around the world. So now you're talking about being with the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. Listen to me. I want people who love to admire Singapore. 270 square miles. That's the size of Singapore. Okay? Let me tell you what the size of Freeport is. Not Grand Bahama. Freeport is 235 square miles. Almost the same size as Singapore. With better infrastructure, better everything I just told you about. Now, when you throw Grand Bahama
So
into that...
Freeport got better infrastructure than Singapore?
Yes, that we're starting out with. Absolutely.
My God.
Now, let me give you another example. Do you know the poisoning of a few thousand individuals in Lewis Yard, Pinnis Point, Hawksbill, Mocktown, and the rest of them? 3, 4, 5 per thousand people there. Do you know what they sit on? They sit on 3.5 miles of deep water harbor. So we have a place to bring the people into. We have a place if we remove them from their $2 billion. Their property is worth $2 billion. The problem is nobody wants to accept liability for moving.
Big B, Bradley Cooper is saying, we know you right now, a medical retreat island can be incorporated right now.
You said America what?
A medical retreat island.
No, see, listen to me. Let me tell you, we could build, if a property strategy is executed, we could build $1 billion hospital and make Grand Bahama the medical tourism mecca of this environment. Here's what happens. You have doctors in the United States that pay $100,000 a year, $250,000 a year to have limited amount of surgery. What happens is if we actually pass a law, and they got tort laws in the U.S., let's cap our protection for them for $250,000, whatever. You could then tell a doctor, give me a 10-year pledge of your $100,000, your $1 million, and I will cover you for every insurance that you do in this hospital. But you still pay for all of the fees. You only get medical protection. And now instead of doing 1 or 2 surgery a month that is limited in the U.S., he can do 5 or 6. But at the same time, he's still paying for all of the amenities of the hospital, paying for the room, paying for the theater, paying for everything else. The individual here is recouping, retiring.
How we get like this, man? Because if what we talking about,
but at the same time,
if what we talking about is a simple, and then they make all good. Good afternoon to you, my friend. If what we talking about makes Grand Bahama a medical center, a sports center, makes Grand Bahama a hospitality, a natural hospitality center, a digital mecca. If what we're talking about with all the resources in Grand Bahama right now, why are we letting the government of the Bahamas play us with this conversation of $65 million where we resubmit ourselves to the Chinese again without having an understanding of what the bigger picture is? Could this be part, just a small part, of what Mr. Ingram was talking about? Buy the whole thing back?
No, but again, remember I asked a question a couple of weeks ago. What secret could be on Grand Bahama that the government of the Bahamas, in collusion with each other, both FNMs and PLT, is willing to spend $300 million to hide?
Say it again.
What secret lies on Grand Bahama that both the PLT and FNM is willing to throw away $300 million to hide? That's what we have to find out.
Why wouldn't they go after the Grand Bahama Port Authority wholeheartedly?
Because the Grand Bahama Port Authority has no assets. This is what I want people to stop fantasizing about. They've sold the assets in violation of the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement. Okay? There's no power company. There's nothing there. The Grand Bahama Port Authority, when you say the land, that's the land for what the 50% Hutchison owns is in a separate company. The power company before they sold it was in a separate company. The water company is in a separate company. The maintenance company is in a separate company. Grand Bahama Port Authority, as it is, has no assets.
Jesus.
Buy it for $1. In fact, they have no income if you take the harbor from them, because I want people to understand, we pay for the captain of the harbor, They get to keep the profit, okay? When Aaron Ferguson and I were having to fight for the pilots to have access to create a national, the Bahamas Pilot Association, where we would be able to control every ship in the Bahamian water, because no ship could come in Bahamian water without pilots, creating another few thousand jobs, okay? But then the question is, you then begin to understand why is it that Oban, which was the seizure, a land grab, was important. Why is it they're talking around a vision for Grand Bahama? Because somehow, in empowering thousands of Bahamian families, you have to reveal the secrets for the last 50 years. Those are secrets that they do not want revealed. But here's the linchpin. The one thing that every single government ran away from is not giving away the $150 million. Is why they give away that $150 million a year. Because that $150 million a year, to get it, requires a land registry. Listen to this carefully. I want Bahamians to stop and listen to this. To collect the $150 million a year taxes in the Bahamas that the Hawksbill Creek Agreement calls for in law. Okay? First, let me let people know. There is no such thing as the Hawksbill Creek Agreement except in concept. It is an actual law book on the books. It's a law. It's called the Deepwater Harbor Act. It's called the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, referring to how it came about. There's a law. This is why you can't say, if you change the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, you must change the law, not the agreement. You have to change the Deepwater Harbor Act, striking it down. That's why they say you can't change it, because it no longer exists. So the law called for taxes to begin to be paid in August 15, 1990. The government keep delaying the collection of the taxes because to collect this tax, it requires you to have a land registry. You cannot have a land registry in Grand Bahama unless you have one for the entire Bahamas, which would then bring into account the 1.5 million acres of crown land that is missing. It will also show who owns all the property on Grand Bahama, including all the waterfront property, which is owned by the Grand Bahama Port Authority, almost all the way to East End. I want people to know all the beaches you see
from the Grand Bahama Port all the way to East End.
Yes, way beyond what they originally got in it. Literally speaking, the Grand Bahama Port Authority and others have acquired almost every beachfront property from Freeport straight to East End. That's why you have to ask yourself, what was the deal, the Oban deal? Because it is a land grab. It isn't a land grab of East Grand Bahama. It's a land grab of Grand Bahama. I just described to you a multi-billion-dollar city. Singapore is a trillion-dollar city, an island, where all of the ships for transport goes right by. I just told you of 3.5 miles of Deepwater Harbor that you need to do nothing for except move the people.
Edmonton George, and what's his other partner? Edmonton George and Jack Hayward, right?
Right.
Was most of this happening with them alive?
You ask the question again?
Is most of what is the secret of the land grabs and everything that was going on, how much of this was happening while Edmonton George those were alive?
It happened 100%. It all began in 1969 with the bend or break speech. That's when
when Penman came with the bend or break speech in '69.
Yes,
they had the Hawksbill Creek Agreement and the Grand Bahama Port Authority. They had so much of Grand Bahama. The Grand Bahama was almost like another government.
No, right. But no, the Hawksbill Creek Agreement give them certain benefits. They own police, they own customs, they own everything. In fact, the agreement still allows for that, right? They own immigration. When he came and says that Bahamians will be excluded, that the social order of this island must be broken, must bend or be broken.
Yes.
That created a fear among all the investors on Grand Bahama. And they wanted, and this company called Bengay, they wanted to get their money out of the islands. This is when all of the wealth to Bahamians was transferred. Because when people started abandoning houses and businesses, they started giving businesses to their workers. So they just abandoned their houses and they just left town. But the Bengay Agreement, which came about, I think, in 1979 or 1970, allowed them to sell their shares. That's what the word Bengay Agreement came about. And they were able to sell their shares, and that's how we, the Bahamian government, got 7.5% in the Port Authority that nobody's ever.
Who's controlling the land sale in Grand Bahama?
Grand Bahama,
in Freeport.
Port does for Devco.
In Freeport.
Yes, in Freeport.
Hutchison Post is controlling the land sale in Freeport also. What does the port control?
No, the Grand Bahama, see, listen to me carefully this. It's a company called the Grand Bahama Development Company, which holds title to all of the lands under the Hawkesbury Creek Agreement and additional lands they bought. The Grand Bahama Port Authority is the owner of 50% of DevCo through another company.
To how does it benefit the Bahamian people? Based on all that we're saying right now, with all of these holding companies, how is it benefiting the people in Grand Bahama?
It doesn't. That's why we're starving to death. This is why the whole Bahamas is starving development. Because I've said for 15 years from the day I came home that Grand Bahama is the place for the Caribbean to be done if we fix our immigration laws, if to protect sovereignty through citizenship, let's change the laws and even amend the Constitution so that we can have the 500,000 people that was intended for Grand Bahama in its early days live here, and they can have even their children here and not threaten our sovereignty, because so it will be just like in Singapore. You could be born there, grow up there, go to school there. You will not be an instant citizen in no instant just because you're born here and whatever else. There is a process. That's a conversation we have to have. So the problem is it requires a national vision. See, the Grand Bahama, the vision for Grand, right, carries into a national vision for the entire Bahamas. Because you can't develop Grand Bahama without a national vision, because you have to incorporate the other 250,000 people, adults, who live around the archipelago. So the problem is that what you have is leadership with 5-year election plans and no vision for the entire Bahamas.